Hey friends, you're watching BrainStormAcres. I'm Henry, and tonight I'm going to do something a little different. I'm going to show you how you can do some other things with zucchini besides making zucchini bread. I'm making tempura tonight. I purchased some shrimp in the store today because I had to go for some butter because we were all out. Tomorrow is supposed to be our regular shopping day, but I had to go today. So I picked up a few shrimp. Now while I was gone, Irene did some prep work for me, which I really appreciate. She prepared the ingredients for the tempura batter. Now this tempura batter is really simple. It's 1 cup of flour, 1 tablespoon of cornstarch, a pinch of salt, and between 1 and 1.5 cups of seltzer water. You put the seltzer water in cold, really cold. The colder, the better. You don't want it frozen, but you want to have cold seltzer water. It helps keep some of the carbonation in the batter. The normal recipe calls for 1.5 cups of seltzer water. I like the tempura batter to be a little thicker, especially when I'm going to be coating things like shrimp. And there's an awful lot of talk about what temperature do you fry foods at. Well, today I'm using some olive oil. Don't use extra virgin for this. That's a waste of the extra virgin olive oil. And you really want an oil that has less flavor. So I'm using regular olive oil. We're going to put a piece of our zucchini in the hot oil. When the zucchini bubbles like this, when you put it in the oil, the temperature's about right. This is an easy way of determining whether or not your oil is hot enough. Normally I use a measuring cup to measure the seltzer water. I'm not going to do that today, and the reason is the last time I made this recipe I used 2 ounces of the seltzer water out of this bottle. This bottle is a 10-ounce bottle of seltzer water. That means I have 8 ounces left in here, 1 cup. So I'm going to go ahead and use that as my starting point. Just pour the seltzer water into the dry ingredients. Stir really quickly because it'll bubble up. Now I'm using chopsticks. I find it easier to manipulate both the batter and my zucchini. You see some batter that's kind of clumpy on the end of that chopstick. It's okay to have some bits and pieces in here that aren't completely incorporated because they'll work themselves out in the oil. It doesn't take long for the vegetables to cook. Just a minute or 2. You don't want the zucchini to get brown. All you're trying to do is get the outside coating to cook completely. The point of cooking the zucchini this way is to have it still have a tooth. You want it to have a little bit of resistance when you bite into it, but you don't want it to be raw. I'm going to ask my assistant to come in and test out the zucchini to see if she likes it. Hot is good.
Mm-hmm. It is.
Now the zucchini is going to sink to the bottom of the oil. As I mentioned before, I'm using olive oil. This is just a light olive oil. You can use a lot of other oils. About the only one that I wouldn't prefer to use personally is I wouldn't prefer to use corn oil. There's a lot of reasons for that. In part, it's because pretty much all corn oil you get in the US is GMO. And there's some particular problems for both of us when it comes to digesting that particular oil in our advanced years.
Golden shrimp tempura.
Irene, would you come in and try this and see if you like it?
It looks perfect. Just a slight bit of golden brown to it.
That's a nice crunch.
Great
That's what I was
crunch.
looking for.
Great crunch. Perfect crunch. Cutting it off because it's a little hot. Which of course it has to be, because otherwise you'd soak up the oil. That's good.
Now, in most Japanese restaurants, the oil that's used is primarily soybean oil, which is pretty much also a GMO product. So, I guess take your chances. We've used avocado oil. Irene says she likes to have things cooked in coconut oil. I'm willing to try that in the future.
Last year, Henry was cooking a lot of our spiral sliced zucchini in the coconut oil, and it was wonderful.
Well, since we now have the batter about right, I had to stir it up a little bit more. There was some flour that had sunk to the bottom of the container. So I just stirred that up, and things seem to be good now.
Perfect.
What I'm doing now is putting about a serving's worth of vegetables in the tempura batter. I want to put them all in the oil at about the same time so they get done about the same time. And while that's cooking, I'm going to get some shrimp also in the tempura batter. So because there's only one of me cooking and I'm using a small pot. Now, if I were using a big deep fryer, I'd cook all of the food for both of us at one time and we'd sit down and have a meal together. But since I'm showing you another way of cooking, which is just in a pot on the stove, I have about an inch of oil in the bottom of that pan. I can only cook one person's food at one time. You can use tongs or a knife, a fork, it doesn't matter, to pull the pieces of vegetable out. That's all the vegetables. At least all the vegetables for this course. Those vegetables are just about ready to come out. I'm going to. I'm just going to roll these over right now. They're all ready. The cook time on these vegetables is really, really short, which is nice. For a whole lot of reasons. One of the reasons is that I'll be able to get one meal's worth of food out in a real hurry. I'm going to let these shrimp cook until they start curling. Just make sure I have no more shrimp in the pan. I'll just be turning the shrimp over using the Chinese spider. Really handy tool for doing this kind of cooking. I want these shrimp to get a little bit of a brown on them. But they should be cooked in about 3 minutes. These shrimp should be done. I'm going to pull one out and double check it. I don't do tempura shrimp very often, so I just want to have a double check on my cook to make sure that I have the shrimp cooked all the way through. It needs to go for another minute or two. Unfortunately, these shrimp were frozen from the grocery store, and I'm not convinced they were thawed all the way through. Irene doesn't think they were, which means I need to make sure they cook long enough that the center of the shrimp is cooked all the way through. When shrimp cook, they curl up tight like this. Now, the tempura batter resists that curling a little bit, but curling still happens, as you can see. Irene's dinner is now ready, so I'm going to let her start eating on this, and I'm going to continue cooking. Well, thanks very much for watching. As you can see, it's a really simple, quick, easy way to go about using your zucchini and other squash in another way. Tonight, I cooked some zucchini and some patty pan squash that Irene had sliced up. The slices were all about 1/4 inch thick, which means that as the tempura batter cooks, the vegetable will cook part way through. It'll still have some tooth. That is, it'll still have a little bit of resistance. We like that. We prefer not to have squishy squash. Thanks very much for watching. If you liked what we did here, please like and subscribe. Don't forget to hit the bell for notifications, because we're always doing something on the homestead here. Sometimes it's crazy, sometimes it's not, sometimes it's hot like it was today. Thanks for watching. Bye.